Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are talking to Alex Moreno, who is a screenwriter and executive producer at On the Move Productions, and he handles what's called the F.L.O.W project. Welcome, Alex.
Good evening to you and all your listeners. Hello.
Hello, and you are located out of South Florida. Before we get started on talking about your screenwriting projects and your films, tell us about the F.L.O.W project.
So I'm actually going to do a short, long version. I'm one of those strange people that I have friends in the movie industry, but I'm not in the movie industry. Well, I am now. I'm actually a clinical program manager at the University of Miami. I take care of patients with HIV. Part of that work involves a lot of prevention education, and the rates of infection are worse in South Florida than any other place in the country. So I
Okay.
was chatting to a very famous friend of mine. I'll divulge his name in a moment. And I was kind of bitching about, I've told another young person they have HIV. He's like, what can I do? I've got to do something bigger and better. And he turned to me and says, combine both of your worlds. You're a screenwriter and you want to do productions and you've got all the health education knowledge, put them together. So that gentleman was David Frankel, one of the best directors in the world, who's a friend of mine. And he and I formed F.L.O.W, which is Future Leaders of the World. In a nutshell, we enhance our education with groups of youth by teaching a mini health curriculum. Then every student has to come back with like a raw story based on those topics. We then take the kids through a journey of development of a script. They have a youth advisory board on the side that reviewed these scripts and they score them on things like dialogue, production viability, et cetera, et cetera. The top 3 scripts then go into a face-off where we bring in pro actors and we do a table read of the scripts, and the director of choice chooses the script. We then shoot that project, and we call it a project because we then use bilingual actors because we're in Miami. So we use English and Spanish speaking actors, and we have very authentic films that are English and Spanish.
Oh.
So it's a cool thing because at the very end of that, in post-production, we then bring in an education advisory board to design lesson guides surrounding the film so that the package is given to a teacher where they can show the film, for instance, Rumors, which is about STIs. It's like, Mean Girls get sent to detention. They're completely clueless. It's a comedy, but it's really short. It's 4.5 minutes long. Teacher shows the video finishes, then the teacher teaches the topic of STIs. So that's what F.L.O.W is. What I'm always telling my other writing peers is, don't just think to break in as a writer, it's the Hollywood route. There's so many different ways and different mediums to break into. So I'm using educational films that are very short as one way of, reaching our audience through the visual medium of filmmaking. But then, of course, we have other special projects, which is how you and I had met.
And now let's stop for a second. We're going to take a look at an example of what Alex is talking about with his films with the F.L.O.W project. We're now going to take a look at the trailer for Two Similar Strangers.
The hardest part is the wait. People like me don't get things.
It's just one time. One accident.
And you think that I have something too? Breathe.
Your test results are ready.
So we just took a look at Two Similar Strangers. So tell us about that, Alex.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the trailer. As you can see, it's quick hitting, it's to the point. It follows all the format, the beginning, middle, and end. But we kind of called our F.L.O.W films a slice of life. It's just taking like a peek into the world for 4 to 6 minutes, because again, we want to connect to young people surrounding these very sensitive health topics. So what we are doing now, which is kind of strange, we've been getting inquiries from around the world we had the Peace Corps contact us, and now we're setting up a project for 2025 in Dubno, Ukraine. Then after that, we got approached from Athens, Greece, and yet we want to do something much more local, but we're just kind of, pardon the pun, going with the flow and expanding to wherever we get the inquiries. I just got back from Canada a few weeks ago.
Nice. So you travel to do some of these films. They're not just all in Florida, right? You go all over.
So we will be as of now. So we are connected to a 501c agency so that we can apply for grants. So when we get grant money in is when we do the other work. So
Okay.
I think probably by 2025, 2026, we're probably going to have at least 5 projects, some international, some local.
Great, great. And you list them on IMDb. I've seen them on there. So I mean, this is an official, they're film projects. Are you taking them to a wider distribution?
So that's a great question. Having a meeting on the 20th with a marketing manager that I'm hiring so that we can get the word out. We're probably the greatest project no one's heard about because I'm an educator, now a filmmaker, but I have nothing to do with promotions and marketing. So I'm actually going to hire someone and we're going to have a game plan and get the word out.
That's excellent. And for those of you who are interested in seeing more of Alex's F.L.O.W project, I'm leaving the link to his website in the description below. Yeah, let's talk about your screenplay that I gave a recommend to. It's called They Played. And let me just read the log line that I had. I'm not sure this is a recent log line, but I will read it. You can correct it if it's incorrect.
It's the same one, hasn't changed.
Okay, so it's just a Ukrainian nationalist. He's like a prisoner guy. He becomes sort of a symbol of a rebellion when he refuses to throw a football game that's hosted by the Nazis. Now, this is a historical sports drama.
I, in my capacity in the field of healthcare, came across a group of people from the Ukraine that do similar work.
Mhm.
And we were discussing, and not in America, but everywhere else in the world, everyone connects to the sport of football or soccer, as you call it in America. It's just that thing. It's like the barrier between every language and every culture of the world. Everyone can talk about football. So we were talking about football one day, and the people invited me to learn more about this very important event that happened in the summer of 1942 while Germany was occupying the Ukraine. They formed a soccer league, and the Ukrainian nationalists had their team, and they were beating up on everybody, and the Germans got mad about it, and they ended up asking for a revenge match where the Ukrainians beat them again. So then they arranged another match in front of Nazi dignitaries, and they basically told the Ukraine people that they had to throw the game. So Russia used that as propaganda. So we decided to have me write a 90-page script, because a soccer game is 90 minutes, on the events that led up to the match, and then the aftermath of the match, which was a very, very important part of the history that wasn't really talked about. Now, oddly enough, I wrote all this many, many years ago. And then, of course, the Russian invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago has highlighted my, I guess, desire to really get this story out into the world, because it's probably the best time. So I think it would be an amazing thing for the people of the Ukraine to have something to cling on to, a very positive story based in their history of them overcoming odds against all odds, just like they are now. So that's why we're really vested in this story.
I love it on so many fronts. First of all, you have the Nazis and their need for revenge on just over a sports game. Just speaks to their, moral sense of moral compass, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you have the irony of what's happening now and the Russians calling the Ukrainians Nazis, which is crazy. So I think this is so timely. So are you currently marketing it, or what's your status on it, Alex?
So yes, I have a few producers who are looking at it, one in LA and one in LA who's from the Ukraine, who's actually going to be my producer on my F.L.O.W Ukraine project.
Oh, wonderful.
So
Good.
that's a really good
Good.
connection there.
Mhm.
And we'll see. I actually just got another script picked up. So once I get that really settled and going, there's probably lots of connections through Orion because of that project, a completely separate project. It's actually called Sundown, and it's an African-American version of Thelma and Louise, is what I'm
Oh,
calling it.
I love
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Very powerful script, tackling racism. I've told my co-writer Nikki that with this script, once we get it made, I don't care if it doesn't make a dime at the box office, because this is the type of movie that college professors will be using for discussions in classroom, kind of like what we did with Do the Right Thing. That's where I think this script's going to go. It's so striking about racism from different angles, colorism, etc. It's a provocative script.
Now, may I ask, how do you raise the funds for it? Because you are an executive producer. How, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so with the F.L.O.W project, we have a fiscal agent, so it's a non-for-profit, so we can apply for grant foundation. So
Okay.
I just landed my first F.L.O.W grant. It's from the federal government of HRSA, Human Resource Service Administration, but they want us only to do the F.L.O.W content on substance abuse. And that's great. So much work to do there, but I can't do anything else but substance abuse because that's what the grant dictates. So
Got it.
F.L.O.W is grant money. We have had a few people donate money to the cause, which is cool, but that's small nickel and diming. With the Sundown project, my other executive producer is very well connected in the industry as far as financing. So she's taking care more of that. I'm doing more of the development. So it's a good teamwork with that. And then things like They Played or my other project, Kangaroo Time, or my miniseries, Disposable People. It's a case of just like anybody, you know, try to be nice to everybody, make connections. Maybe someone will look at it or look at a pitch deck, and then we read the script and goes from there. It's, you know, so hard to get the right script into the right hands at the right time. I'm sure all the viewers and the listeners know this.
Sure.
And I think my advice to everybody is building those relationships with people. Quick story. I knew David Frankel for about 11 years before I even gave him a script of mine. We just became friends.
Yeah.
And then later on, when I really got into the whole script writing and movie industry, that's when I lent into the friendship. So
Sure.
I have a lot of mentors who have helped me along the way. So try to be nice to people, try to find a mentor like Howard Rosamond from LA, great guy. He's been one of my mentors. So I think it's just a case of building the relationships and the other things will follow.
You allowed to take money from like an investment group or investors or crowdfund or anything like that?
Yes, again, it would end up being a donation to the fiscal agent. So let's say
Okay.
somebody, Morgan Stanley Bank wanted to drop 50 grand for F.L.O.W. They drop 50 grand, they get a tax deductible receipt. So when they do their 990 at the end of the year, you know, they can claim that as a tax deductible donation. I have people sending me scripts all the time, and I ask them, what is the social aspect of this? Oh, no, it's about a guy that wants to get laid, Trojan Wars. Great movie, not interested in being involved in it. If it's something about, I got a young lady that's overcome sex trafficking and wants to, I don't know, reenact revenge against her, then that's something I may look into. So it has to have a very social impact for me personally, just because we have to pick and choose what we do. And that's really what I'm invested in, is anything that's going to make a change for society and for our youth that we work with. Even though They Played is historical, all the story and components is so relevant to today.
Do you accept unsolicited materials, or are you open to that, or what's your where are you at with that?
So again, it has to be something that would interest me. I do get, you know, I'm on IMDb and people say, hey, I've got this comedy script, I've got this horror script, and I write back saying, not interested. I'm only dealing with social impact thing.
You don't want any cross genres. You strictly want the social issue. Gotcha.
Yes, yes. That's just because it's a personal thing for me. That's all.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And that's your focus, and I really admire that. So there's a lot of writers out there just getting started, and you have a long history in the business as well as in your other business. What kind of advice would you give them in today's market? Because it's vastly different than it was even a decade ago.
Yes, and that's kind of like when I started, was a decade ago. So the first thing is learn the craft. Second thing is don't send any of your work out. Thirdly, once you've reached, you think, a certain level, then get coverage, because the coverage will tell you how close or far away you are as you think you are as a writer, right? Be nice to everybody. I'm always saying that, right? Someone could talk to me tonight and they're a newbie writer. This time next year, the executive producer at Orion dealing with me in Sundown. Make connections, go to classes, go to seminars, build your tribe, or find your tribe. Maybe that's a way to look at it, is find the people that you can connect with. With F.L.O.W, I was in an international writers group that met every other Monday. And when I decided to do this, I asked my fellow writers to bring me my first scripts. And I ended up producing with a young boy in Canada and a young lady in Australia on 2 of our F.L.O.W films. So again, bringing the world together through the world of filmmaking. The main thing I'm going to say about new writers is don't get sucked into things that come across your pathway. I don't want to mention who, but you'll get an ad maybe from a certain site, and it's going to say something like, do you want to get your film in front of the executives of Orion Pictures? Then when you scroll down to the person's name, Alexander Moreno has been involved in these films. Then you go to my name and you put me in IMDb. I'm like 7 people removed from an executive assistant at Orion. So be careful about things like that. You know,
Sure.
it's selling you a product, you know, drop, you know, $100 to have your script read by these people. Well, check out who these people are. And then the other thing I would suggest for a screenwriter that's new, don't enter screenwriting competitions. They go nowhere. It's a waste of your money. And if you think about if you go on like Film Freeway, I think there's got to be like 900,000 screenwriting competitions. So do your research. I think there's only 7 films ever made that won a screenwriting competition. That's a horrible percentage, right? Land of the Blind, I think won Nichols and got made it, and Arlington Road and
Arlington Road, yeah.
Huntsman and the what's it like? Snow White and the Huntsman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling to think of any more.
The Giant Peach one was one of them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think that was one. Just yeah,
But not
probably
many.
about a dozen. Yeah, about a dozen, I think.
Terrible. So save your money, work on your craft, and work on making connections.
Okay, so Alex, tell us about the website On the Move Productions, and I did leave a link in the description.
Thank you. So yeah, on that website, there's a little history about us, talking about David and I's work, but then also we have a catalog of the 2 production companies, which is Dog Media in Denver, which we kind of deal with like West Coast stuff, and then On the Move Productions on the East Coast. So as an example, if you looked at Disposable People, there's a script up. Well, it's 4 episodes, so all 4 episodes are up there. There's a pitch deck up there. So any industry pro could kind of get a good view as to what the projects are. And we're always open to discussing and talking to producers and directors. You know, some people come in, I really like this idea, but I want to change it. It's another advice to writers. You're not married to that script. It's your story, but someone else is producing it and making it film. It's a whole, you know, so many people are going to be involved in making your script. So let it go.
What's your connection with the Denver production company? What's your connection there? What is your position?
So Dog Media Productions is Nikki, my screenwriting partner. We've written a few scripts together. So we just decided to put everything up on one catalog.
But most of the actual production is done through On the Move Productions, correct?
Yes. So for instance, Nikki's also one of my F.L.O.W producers. She directed one film. She produced one film. She came back to the East Coast. And we're looking at doing F.L.O.W work in Fresno and in Denver. So once you know all the rules, you can start, you know, bending them. Like I'm crazy about transitions now. Nearly all my scripts have transitions. Guy's body burning, next scene, sizzling bacon. I'm sorry, it's horrible, but those are the type of things we're doing all the time. The train coming in with a whistle, next scene, the cat was whistling. So just little things like that you'll develop later on. Once you kind of know all the rules, you'll develop your own style. Everyone who reads my scripts, I don't know if you noticed this, Bob, there's no overlapping pages. I don't know if you noticed that. That's like one of my...
I did. I gave him a recommend on They Played. And okay, Alex, so I thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate your time. And we'll see everybody next time.